Hello and welcome to Nano Yoga, and today I'm having a discussion type video. I hope that you enjoy it. I've written a blog with very similar points to what I'm talking about, but I'm kind of condensing it because reading and obviously watching is a little bit different. Today's topic that I want to discuss, and feel free please to discuss it in the comments below. I'll be replying because this is something that has really been on my mind and on my heart. Excuse the squeaky chair. There's also my partner out there in the forest sanding things, so it's going to be a little bit noisy. Apologize. I just went to Europe. My mum, my stepdad, my siblings, and many of my friends, because I spent most of my education in the UK. I'm not really English, but hence why I have this accent. And I had a friend's wedding that she invited me to 2 years ago, so we went to France to do that, which was amazing. It was in a castle, very fancy. And also have my dad's family. My stepdad's family are England, but my dad's family are in France, so very multicultural over here. And I haven't been to Europe in about 4 years, since 2019, and I indulged. I went all out, Leif and I, my other half and I, my partner and I, and we ate. Like at one point in the 2 weeks we were away, absolute gluttony. I don't remember being hungry. Like the feeling of emptiness was something I experienced once I came back to Japan, as you can see in the forest. What I wanted to discuss was having a Japanese mother and being sort of in this Asian culture of thinness, where it's very much glorified. I know that it is in the West too, but I feel like there's a lot more acceptance in the West of different things, whereas in Japan, the status quo doesn't really change at all. I mean, maybe very slowly, but not really. I mean, mental health isn't talked about, and certainly not eating disorders, which I believe are probably, I've read an article in 2020 were made way worse with the stress and anxiety from the pandemic for younger people. So it's definitely a thing. But if you don't discuss mental health or anorexia and fat shaming and thinness, then it's never going to be in your radar. So perhaps this is something you've talked about, you've thought about, but I just wanted to kind of talk about it more roundly. So essentially my mother called me fat. I haven't actually I kind of stopped weighing myself, but I did a bit more recently, and for some of us that can be really triggering. For me it can be, but I try to be all about self-love and accepting my body as it is and myself as I am. Obviously much room for improvements, but being fat shamed by my mum, you know, she's Japanese. It's kind of like if you have an Asian parent, you probably relate. Like it's like being called fat is somewhat a way they would say I love you in a really toxic way. So what I wanted to say is that I never really confronted her about this. I definitely was guilty, especially after winter, snowboarding and kind of, you know, it's really cold, it's snowy, doing anything kind of requires a lot more energy, but I also eat a lot because it's cold. And again, I ate a lot in Europe, so I'm definitely the heaviest I've ever been before. So she's right, like I am fat than I've ever been before, but it depends who you talk to, right? Because you might not consider me fat at all, but obviously a Japanese person might think that I've put on not a huge amount of weight, but put on weight, like quite a bit. It's an interesting trend in our media now that it's summer, and we have to kind of realize that like we do not need to be shamed to show ourselves us in a bikini or to wear certain things, but it's really hard at the same time to feel confident when you're being fat shamed. And yet why is it from shame that we then want to then improve and get healthier? One instance where I did lose weight, which really made me realize that it's quite an extreme. It's not just like losing weight is easy. That's why there's so many fads and diets out there and supplements and things to make you feel like you've found a solution to your fatness. But really, if you really want to lose weight, it's a whole lifestyle change. It's moving more. It's like restricting your foods and what you're eating, and in a certain way. Like so when I did my yoga teacher training in Koh Phangan in Thailand, it was hot, it was tropical, it was November, and so it was like a 4-week yoga teacher training, so that's 6 days a week with 1 day off, 3 hours and a half of yoga a day, so 2 hours and an hour and a half, and only eating 2 meals a day because I was on a budget. So I had like the brunch that they provided, which is like a lunch, and then I just ate out for dinner, and yeah, drinking plenty of water, no alcohol, no coffee, no desserts really, and yeah, I lost quite a bit of weight, and it was really noticeable. But at the same time, I realized that it really was like an extreme situation to be in, and that if you live a normal life where, you know, when we are interacting with other people, for me personally it's with food, that could be like my half French side that's coming out, but in Japan also there's a very big food culture, and drinking, because in Japan, excuse me, that was my toe, we have a big drinking culture, I guess, in most cultures. And so if you restrict your diet, you sort of it kind of feels like a hindrance for socializing, and if you can probably do it if you're by yourself. But for me, part of enjoying life is enjoying food. So essentially what I'm trying to get back at is that we are, as I was trying to do some fasting last week, like 2 days, and then I was running, which I'm going to do right after this video, is trying to stay healthy and strong is kind of my goal, because my metabolism has slowed down, and I'm now in my 30s, and I'm noticing that if I eat, it's just not sort of magically going away like it used to. And while I was running last week, this time last week on Friday actually, I was listening to this article on The Economist. So I had to log in, blah, blah, blah. So if you want to read it, I will put it into the bio below. And essentially the article was, let me find it here. The article is The Economics of Thinness. It is economically, is it economically rational for ambitious women to try as hard as possible to be thin? I'm just going to double check the title. No, sorry. It is economically rational for ambitious women to try as hard as possible to be thin. I just completely misconstrued that title. And essentially in it, there's the woman a French author who is a career woman. I think she's from Paris. And she wrote French Women Don't Get Fat. So obviously she recommends drinking lots and water, not alcohol, and being active and controlling your food portions. And I saw this firsthand. I was eating dinner at my dad's friend's house. My dad's passed away now. And while I was visiting family in Marseille, and she's from Paris. His daughter's a career woman in Paris, and she's very thin, very beautiful. And she was sort of, I could see it, she was passing up like the cream on the strawberries, and, you know, just sort of being really, obviously you eat good quality food in France, obviously depending on your background, but she was restricting herself, and I felt sort of guilty because I was just eating the cheese and the bread and, you know, like feeling really full. Obviously she's doing the thing where, like, you know, you eat enough and you don't need to feel like disgustingly full, but, you know, like you've eaten. And yeah, just so funny reading this article. Like I just really felt like, do I accept my weight, that I've put on weight, and do I exercise because I want to feel better mentally and in my body, or am I doing it because my mom fat shamed me, essentially? And to cut it short, really, because I could talk about this for hours, and I'd already made a video and I made it shorter, so this is the new version where I've condensed what I've written on this blog. And there is always going to be things in the media and out there on your social media. I mean, now there's AI, there's filters where right now I could make my eyes look different and my entire face and my body. I'm wearing this nondescript top because I'm trying to make it more about what I'm talking rather than how I look. And we really need to be careful with what we consume and who we're around. And the power imbalance between me and my mother when I go visit over there is very different when I'm here, because I'm a bit more like, hey, I don't want you to talk to me like that. But when I'm in her house over there, it's a bit of a different atmosphere. But I wish I had said something along the lines of, a good one that I learned from this influencer who's all about body inclusivity and, you know, against fat shaming, is saying like, uh-oh, when someone says something about your weight, which I think is so great, or letting them have the silence. And I wish I'd said something along the lines of, if I am fat, like you're saying, do you love me less? I mean, you could say that to a friend or a family member or whoever says that to you. I mean, does that make you like me less because I've put on weight? And I think you can even say it when you've lost weight. I've been praised before for losing weight by my friend, and she's Japanese, and it's, you know, almost like, it's not a confrontation, but it's just a way to open people's eyes to their biases of, do you love me less because I was fatter? And that's probably not at all what they're trying to say. I think they're trying to praise you, but can't we focus more on our attributes? Not to sound like I'm from Bridgerton or from Jane Austen, but on our skills, on our courage, on things that are not about how we look, but more about who we are. And there's so much more to us than what's on the surface, is what I'm trying to say. And have to come back to sort of this yoga practice of mine, which, you know, is not always on the mat for me anymore. It's very much off the mat, how I react to my partner when he's irritating me, how I react to my mother when she's fat shaming me. And I haven't really needed to meditate, etc. so far, because I'm in a really good place right now. You know, I've gone away for a month. I kind of tend to use it when I'm feeling quite low. But yeah, there's so much more to you and I than our weight. And I hope that if you were also sort of commented about your weight by a family member like I was, I hope that you find the courage to steer that conversation in a place that feels better and less shameful. And I hope that you can accept yourself. I've even had a colleague before, a long time ago, who had lost lots of weight. Obviously I didn't know her before, so I didn't know she'd lost lots of weight. And that's one story I always remember, is that she just told me like she wasn't particularly happy because she'd lost the weight. And I really, and you know, like 10 years ago, I didn't really think much about things. You know, I was in my early 20s, and I really did equate like thinness with happiness. And yeah, I just remember just being so sad that, you know, it doesn't mean because you're thinner that you're happier. And especially if you're unhappy with what you have and who you are to start with. And that always stuck with me. And perhaps that's why this like fat shaming coming from my mother really bugs me, because it's like, well, I'm aware that I've put on weight, my metabolism slowed down, but does that make me a bad person or a worse person? Like, I don't think so. Like, I was just enjoying my time and my food and staying in a lot. Anyway, that's it. That's all I wanted to say. And really the whole point of this talk is to discuss it. It is, I want to make more videos like this where I discuss topics that are on my heart, that I think are on a lot of people's minds too, hopefully on yours too. And it always comes back, to this theme of self-love and having a practice of trying to give less F's what other people say, and to really come back to just appreciating already where you are, who you are, and not letting negative comments from other people bother you as much as you can. Doesn't mean you're going to always feel that way, but I hope that this just empowers you a little bit to not take those comments so personally. Which is funny because I've made a video about it. So yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll also be making a yoga class about this theme, about self-love and kindness towards yourself. And I will put it so that it can be linked as soon as it's done. See you soon. Thank you for watching.